Thank you very much at magandang araw mga kaibigan. Nagbabalik po ang inyong programang Aksyon Central Luzon Special Edition. Ito po si Sunny Lopez at ngayon pong ika-8 taon ng ating pong programa, nag-iimbita po tayo ng mga very important persons po, individuals na pwede hong magbigay ng informasyon at mga kaalaman na makakatulong po ng malaki sa ating pong mga viewers. At isa po ito pong aking panauhin ngayon, isa po sa aking mga paborito, no? Dahil pag nandito po siya, hindi po ako masyadong nagtatrabaho. At halos siya na po lahat ang pinababayaan natin kasi tuwing bibitaw po siya ng mga salita, yun po ay napakahalaga po para sa ating mga viewers. Ang ating pong special guest for today, alam po natin na isang Kapampangan from Angeles City, pero siya po ngayon ang pinaka-senior na Kapampangan sa DFA. Mga kaibigan, siya po ang ating Undersecretary for International Economic Relations. Mga kaibigan, ang ating pong special guest, si Ambassador Laura o Lula Quiambao del Rosario. Welcome again, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much, son. It's a pleasure to be here. I think this is my third or fourth time.
Yes, and this will not be the last.
Yeah,
we'll be having more of you in the future.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
ma'am, ilang taong ka na sa
Foreign Affairs.
Foreign Affairs.
I think I'm about to celebrate my 33rd year. And I've been ambassador to Vietnam, you know that. I was ambassador to India. And I think I was ambassador to India when you interviewed me. It was around 4 years ago. And I was assigned also as Minister for Political Affairs in Washington, D.C. during the time of President Clinton. And I was assigned in Vienna as alternate permanent representative to the UN offices there. That was my first foreign posting. So a lot of, I've been through a lot, and I think I've seen
several important assignments.
Many geographic. I've seen so many regional geographic areas in the world. Yeah.
And you have seen the movement of what's happening.
Yes, definitely.
All over.
Yes.
But what prepared you for this? This very important job that you're now.
Oh, economic relations.
Yes, ma'am.
I think it's because when people, when I started, if you notice, I mean, some people know me. Those of you who have brothers or sisters, I started as a faculty member actually at Holy Family. I was teaching English literature. My first love is really literature. But at the same time, I figured that, okay, if I'm going to teach people how to love learning, you have to learn how to read. I also saw that there's some people who are not really interested into reading, okay? So I said, okay, maybe there's a way that I can go somewhere else. So I decided that I should be doing, from education, I went into administration. Then I decided, I said, why don't I go into diplomacy? And maybe at the time there was, we had difficulties in the Philippines. Maybe I said I can bring some jobs home. Because my belief is that foreign policy has a role in economic development. You know, it depends on what you want to see and what you want to bring home. And I found that when I was assigned in the US and Singapore, India, Vietnam, and I saw various possibilities for our government, for us, for our people, and what we can do here. So I think the secretary recognized that anywhere I went, I brought jobs in the Philippines. I tried to bring investment. So
in fact, isa ho kayo sa mga tumutulong sa Clark Freeport.
Oh yeah, right.
We're very happy about that.
Yes, thank you.
Without being invited on your own, probably because you're from the area.
Yes,
and because of the various connections and network that you have all over, you're helping us a lot here in the Clark Freeport.
Yes, yeah, right. Because I tried to bring business process outsourcing companies from India. Because I think during my time, I think that's when the push came, because we were working out there. And we were trying to arrange special arrangements with the Indians, you know, trying to bring them to new locations. And I know I invited some of them or many of them to Clark, and I think we have quite a number here, right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah, that's good. And, okay.
So ma'am, yung trends then, the Filipinos, there's about 7 to 12 million Filipinos who are based abroad. Do you have figures on this, ma'am?
We're looking at 8 million,
8 million.
And I think it's because, but that's a ballpark figure, and at the same time, I think it's not that, unless you count even the immigrants. And of course for Filipinos, they say Filipinos will always remain Filipinos. But in my mind, when you have become an immigrant and you have become an hyphenated Filipino, as I call it, if you become a Filipino-American or a Filipino-Australian, in my mind, I don't count you anymore as a Filipino, because you belong to another country, you decided to adopt another country, although of course your heart belongs to the Philippines. But when we go into statistics, it's only because we want to see the presence of the Filipinos and see what political or economic presence they have. So in that sense, well, we're looking at it as 8 million.
Other than the economic condition in the country, is there anything special about the Filipino? Why they're so fond of trying their luck abroad?
Okay, I think it started during the time of President Marcos when actually I think it started more as okay, during martial law there were some people who said, okay, there must be a better way to live. So they used that as a reason. And at the same time, that was also the time when the OPEC became a powerful force, the oil, petrol, I mean the oil and oil producing countries. And oil became a factor, you know, in economic wealth. So that started it. And then later on, our nurses, it has always been a trend.
Yes.
I'm sure you have a relative, all of us must have relatives in the US, okay? So the doctors and the nurses went there, and then the trend continued in various waves. Sometimes they opened the gates for our nurses, sometimes they closed the doors. But then our workers started to look also, the nurses did not only go to the US, they also went to Australia, then New Zealand, Canada. And then we also have nurses in South America. And then of course you have the Middle East. We have a lot of nurses and caregivers in Israel, for instance. And then later on, from the nurses came the caregivers because of the aging population. So we have caregivers all over the world again. And of course the domestic workers. So we have really varying degrees. But that gives me some concern actually, Sunny, because there are now changes in the wealth of nations. If you notice, even in Italy, where there are still a lot of Filipinos, Italy now is undergoing a downturn. And I went there 3 weeks ago. Many Filipinos don't have jobs. So they lost their secure employment, but still they work part-time. For them, a part-time job there is good enough because they also brought their families there.
Yes.
So in other words, they cannot go back. Some of them cannot go back anymore. They just have to stay there. But it's just that we don't know what's happening. They're really having a difficult time.
So how do you think we have as a nation handled this problem?
For me, the way I look at it is this way. If you notice, like for instance in the Middle East, haven't you noticed that the Kuwait, the Emir of Kuwait was here? They opened the global gateway. After him came the Emir of Qatar.
Yes.
And I understand that the King of Bahrain might come in 2 or 3 weeks. And next year, one of the princes, the isang principe of Saudi Arabia will come to inaugurate the Raffles residences. For me, the message is clear. They have started to gain confidence in the Philippines. They have a lot of money and they're looking for places where to park it. Because if you have money, you have to put it somewhere for it to continue earning, isn't it? And also because maybe this confidence in the Philippines must be due to better governance, meaning they know that our government officials are more open, are more transparent. And it also fits into the philosophy of the current administration, who says that instead of Filipinos going abroad, let's bring the jobs here. And of course, if you bring the jobs here, then of course there will be less separation, you know, and less problems abroad. Yeah.
Family problems.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Did you know that we have a lot of Filipino drug addicts abroad because of alcoholism, especially in Europe? People don't know this. It's hidden from their families. But it somehow frightens us. All these separations bring a lot of money, but there's what do you call that? There's a payment to be paid abroad. So when I heard about that,
even in the Philippines, back here,
the drug addiction, right?
For the children,
So the children are suffering here, the parents are suffering there. And when I heard about the cases of drug addiction and gambling addiction in European countries, I was appalled. I said, ganito ba kagrabe na talaga? But well, maybe as we said, we really have to ramp up our economy, and the only way to do that, as you know me, I always say it has to go back to education. Yeah.
Tama yan.
Yeah.
And I remember, no, I remember you talking to me when I first interviewed you. I think that you brought this problem
Yeah.
before the audience of
Yes.
Action Central Luzon.
Yes. The need for 12th grade.
Yes.
Yes,
mhm.
that was 4 years ago. And at the
When nobody
time,
was talking about
yes,
it.
and also it was controversial because parents would say, why should I spend 2 more years
Yes,
for my students, for my child's education? But my contention is this. Look at the explosion of knowledge, even from 1950s onwards.
Mhm.
I mean, during our time, we learned about DNA and RNA.
Yes.
And then people are mapping already the gene code, and then now even medicine is not anymore into the organic system. They're now into genetic system. They're now into the genetic medicine. So I said, how can you cram all this knowledge unless you add 2 more years? And in some countries, they even have a 13th year. Tapos tayo, masaya na tayo sa 10 years. And of course, it shows when we are abroad, our engineers don't get the same recognition as people who graduated from other countries. Because they said they are undereducated. And they said, but we have experience. Yeah, sure. You have the experience, but the theories, the academic grounding is needed. You do need more years.
Is this the only way, or is this the
Yeah,
way
this
that
is the only way. Even for doctors, how many of them study? You still have to continue studying, right? The lawyers have what they call the continuing education. Even for us as ambassadors, we have to go through training courses. In my case, look, I took 2 master's degrees. It's not even enough now. I wish I can take another master's degree in something, because there's always something new. I wish I can have another degree in science and technology. And these are the new fields right now. You know, the new discoveries are in technology, they're in sciences, and the world is moving, and some of our people don't even know what is happening around them. Yeah.
Especially you're talking about technology. Everybody seems to be
Yeah.
into technology nowadays.
Yes, they're into technology. They know how to use them, but they don't know how it was created. Okay, there is so much wealth to be created from technology. Okay, if you look at, are you into Facebook?
Yes.
Okay. So how many hours do you spend on Facebook?
Because I'm into information.
Yes.
I'm not using it for personal purposes,
Yes.
but I'm using it for information about Clark.
Yes,
about
right.
the things that we do.
So there's a Facebook for Clark.
Yes.
But in your personal,
No, my personal Facebook, I use it even for to inform people.
yeah, right. So do you say that you spend at least 2 hours per day on Facebook?
I think so.
Okay. I think some people are
Because there are smartphones, even
Yes,
when
yeah,
you're
right.
wherever you are.
Okay, so you have a smartphone, you have a computer. These are ICT technology. Now, if you notice, those of us, I cannot afford a smartphone, so I'm using a computer. So the applications for computer are different from the applications in mobile phones. If you notice, they call them the mobile apps.
Yes.
The mobile apps are actually wealth creating. Now, those who are using mobile phones, you're familiar with Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, Instagram is a picture sharing application.
Yes.
Okay, so it's for people who cannot wait to go home to load up their photographs. Here you have a mobile phone that takes a picture, you load it, you send it to your friends.
And you can edit. You can
edit it, so instantly. That Instagram was created 18 months ago. Now Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg talked to the president, CEO, and said, I'll buy Instagram $1 billion. In 18 months, this young man, who's 28 years old, became a billionaire in 18 months. Now, why is it so? Because he thought of an application. Now, even games, people now play games on their mobile phone. You don't need a computer. So in other words, what are the possibilities of creating wealth through this? There are a lot, because the rich economies now, they need more time for leisure. And sometimes, even if you're just waiting for a ride, you need something to distract yourself. And so this is the new trend of wealth creation. Wealth creation now is not anymore limited to creating cups or creating a solid computer. It's now into services, into mobile services. And so maybe this is where our economy can go into, since we are not so strong in manufacturing. We should maybe be able to train our people in services, at least in doing something related to the internet or relating to...
And we're good at that.
Yeah, we're good at that, yeah. So that's why our BPO operations are very successful, because we have the Filipino touch, right? Now, services, of course, is not just related to IT. Like when a nurse, nursing services, that's one. Medical services, even massage.
Legal services.
Yeah, legal services. There is now what they call
Shopping.
the legal outsourcing. I think if only lawyers will put up legal outsourcing offices, because there are a lot of lawyers abroad who want to throw the basic work of looking for the background of a case to a lawyer outside the US, because it's so hard to pay paralegals in the US to do the background legal cases, you know. Ito yung proseso na, let's say you have a case on tobacco. Hahanapin mo lahat ng previous cases, di ba, on tobacco.
Yes.
And then you pay somebody, let's say, $200 an hour to do that.
Researcher.
Researcher, why don't you throw it to a Filipino who might have taken a law degree but who has not passed the bar? Bayaran mo siya ng $500, $600 a month, masaya na, di ba? And that's only 3 hours of work in the US. Ito isang buwan na. So I mean, these are the things that we're looking at outsourcing, legal process outsourcing. Or maybe you might say, ang baba naman ng sweldo, $600. Okay, make it $1,000. It's still less than paying a paralegal in the US for $3,000 a month. So that's how we bring down costs. But we have to improve our language too, because I'm sorry, I have too many frustrations, Sunny. My frustrations, I basically are language, communication, and the way we think, mathematics and technology. That's
Is there time for the Filipinos to recover what they have lost in terms of language?
Yes, they can, but they have to be more serious about it. And at the same time, our mass communicators should also help us. I am a little bit surprised that when I watch TV, most of the interaction is in Taglish.
Yes.
And you cannot talk Taglish to a foreigner. You have to continue speaking in English. Now, if you want Taglish, I am sure when the Department of Education thought of a bilingual education, they did not think of Taglish. They thought of, if you're good in English, you should be good in English. If you're good in Tagalog, you should be good in Tagalog. Pag ikaw ay nag-Tagalog, dapat dire-diretso ang Tagalog mo. Hindi mo dapat haluan ng English. Pag ikaw ay nag-English, dapat English lang yun. Huwag mong haluan ng... Kasi ang ginagawa natin, halimbawa yung mga ibang salita sa Tagalog, hinahaluan natin ng English. Tapos, yung sinasabi nilang conjugation, pag sabi, ikaw ba ay... ano ako, you say, okay, nagsha-shopping ako, di ba? O kaya nagmo-malling ako. You know, all these slang words, and of course, it sounds weird. I mean, for people, especially for me, I'm a purist. When I listen to those words, I cringe. I said, what are they trying to tell me? What are they talking about? And they say, napaka ano mo naman, masyado ka namang mataas ang standard or something. But I said, no, you're actually butchering the language, and that's what disturbs me.
Yung English ba ang lengguwahe ng teknolohiya?
Yeah, English is the language of technology, and English is the global language.
So dapat two-pronged o dalawang approach natin.
Dapat dalawa. So in other words, if you have, if you're good in English, then definitely you can communicate to the world. So how can you do legal outsourcing if your comprehension or communication of English is limited? Now, and then you have technology. How can you handle technology if you're not good in math? Now, when people say, why are you focusing too much on math? Like in my school, we have double sessions of math. We have one math session in the morning, one math session in the afternoon. From grade 1, right now we're entering grade 7. And I said, because mathematics is the only discipline that helps a person think logically. Because if we cannot think logically, we cannot make good decisions, we cannot make good plans.
Pero paano nyo naalis yung takot sa mga kabataan natin?
Na math?
Di ba? When they go to school?
Takot sila sa math?
Yes.
Umpisahan mo sa prep, sa kindergarten. And they think math is just a game.
Okay. You introduce it as a game.
As a game, yes.
Something
and of course, you introduce it as something that they do ordinarily. It's like eating recess. The problem is, it's the parents who say, ay, noong ako, takot ako sa math. Noong ako, mahina ako sa math. Diba? So if you signal that communication to your children, they say, oh, mathematics, I'm scared. So even in my school, people are afraid to, and enter my school because they say, baka naman it's only for the nerds, for the geniuses. Hindi eh. You know, in fact, there was one psychologist, I'm trying to remember his name now. He taught pre-calculus to his daughter who was 6 years old. The concept of pre-calculus. Kaya ng bata, basta lang unti-unti. That's why we call it the spiraling. Sa halip na hagdanan na paakyat, mahirap, di ba? It's like going to a zigzag. Di ba mas madaling umakyat sa bundok pag ganon, kesa sa diretsong ganon. So we do math that way. Unti-unting umaakyat, umiikot. Sa halip na parang hagdan na paakyat.
Okay.
So
Ilan taon na ba yung Paksat Lumen ngayon, your school?
We're on our 4th year operation,
okay.
But we've started our grade 7.
Do you think that the approach that you have adopted is doing you good, or the students good?
Oh, I think so, because we had a quiz bee, a science and math quiz bee last year. We only had 2 years of experience then, and we only had 5 students to choose from, while other schools had 100 students to choose from. We only had 5.
How did you fare?
Number 2. So we ranked number 2 and said, wow.
This is citywide, including the biggest schools in the city of Angeles?
And we beat almost everybody except of course the number 1, right? Then I said, and I asked around and said, ilan bang estudyante ng mga eskwela ito? Their average enrollment for elementary should easily be 300. And compare that to us who only had 35.
Yes.
And our students are not exactly the best and the brightest, but they're good, meaning you bring them to us. We turn them into better students than where they were before. So I think it's working.
Okay.
And our students are not afraid of math, and I don't think they'll be afraid of technology or science either.
Kasi hindi na lagi kong naririnig yung mga bata takot sa math. Hindi, ano na lang kukunin ko.
Kasi, you know, Sunny, it's this, if you know how to think logically, even in your life's decisions, you will also be rational. Di ba? Yung mga tao kasi ngayon di marunong mag-isip. Like for instance, this is something interesting among Scandinavians. When they don't have jobs, they don't get married. And when they lose their jobs, they don't have children. Because they think logically, they say, okay, a child will cost this much. An education will cost. Tayo hindi. I'm in love, okay, I get married, I have children, I don't care how
Dagdagan pa
many.
natin yan,
Tapos later, maawa naman ho kayo sa akin, 5 anak ko, tulungan ninyo ako. Para bang obligasyon ko pa ngayon na tumulong. Dahil, you know, and I said, why are my guilt feelings being used, you know, for somebody to use, di ba? It's not that I am against charity. I want to help people, but I want to help people on my own terms. Not because nagmamakaawa ka sa akin. And then I would always tell people, when you decided to have 5 or 6 children, what were you thinking?
So yung sistema niyo para
mag-isip sa buhay.
Mag-survive, mag-excel.
Oo, hindi lang dahil sa trabaho, kundi every step of the way, when you think, your decision has a logical consequence. Di ba? Whether you intend to do this or that, may logical consequence yan eh. When you turn left, iba yung dadaanan mo. You turn right, iba yung dadaan mo, di ba? So, math and science are like that. They lead you to a more rational way of looking at yourself and at the world. And hopefully, you discover the beauty of creation because the universe is basically mathematical. It's in what they call that. It's proportional, you know, and it's also it's symmetrical. Ang ganda eh. I mean, you look at the leaf, you look at anything, you look at the rays of the sun, you look at a snowflake. Lahat yan may symmetry eh. I don't think God was careless in creating. I'm sure He thought of symmetry and proportion, you know, in everything.
Okay, mag-break ma'am tayo.
Yeah.
Nag-overtime tayo, sobra.
Sure. Okay.
Kaya lang, ang dami ho nang sinasabi at magaganda naman ho yung sinasabi at merong natututunan yung, at saka ang ganda ng flow, kaya pababayaan lang ho natin.
Yeah.
Mamaya babalikan natin yung, kasi sabi ko nga kanina, and I remember this, kayo ang unang nag-advocate na dagdagan po yung taon na sa pag-aaral, no, sa edukasyon ng bata. Pag-usapan po natin yan. Kasi yung nga sinasabi nila, dagdag gastos yan.
Yeah.
Dagdag panahon na naman, nagugugulin yung mga bata sa kanilang edukasyon. Pwede ho bang elaborate po natin ito, ma'am, yung the good side and the negative and the positive about this.
Okay.
Pabalik po kami.
Okay,
Kasama po namin pa rin ang ating pong ambassador dito po sa inyong programang Action Central Luzon Special Edition.